Okay. So good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's webinar on strategies to achieve a 1500 plus stats. I am your host, and I'm genuinely excited to see so many students and parents joining us from different parts of the country. Now, if you're planning to take the SAT in 2025, you are at the right place. Today's session is packed with practical strategies, score boosting insights, and a clear understanding of how to crack the SAT, especially if you are aiming a 1400 or a 1500 plus SAT score. In today's session, we are going to cover important concepts in SAT English and Math. Also, we will provide you strategies that have worked for our students who have scored 1400 or 1500 plus. We'll also give you a sneak peek into our SAT plan or SAT preparation program. So this is an interactive session and I encourage you all to participate in the chat and ask questions as we go. We'll try to answer all the questions towards the end. Now, let's get started. So before we hand it over to my colleagues Amit and Ashay, a very quick introduction about who we are. So we at EZScholar helps students like you to get into their dream universities. We offer services like SAT preparation, research papers, and admission counseling. A bit about our team today. So today I have Amit Bhandari, who is the lead instructor. He holds a degree in BTech from IIT BHU and an MBA degree from IIM Ahmedabad. I also have with me Mr. Ashay Gharge. Now, Ashay is a lead instructor for English and an American TESOL-certified ESL trainer. The company EZScholar, or we call EZScholar, is based out of Luxembourg and is founded by Mr. Vivek Bhandari, who also happens to be a chief mentor. And in terms of his qualifications, he holds a BTech degree from IIT Delhi and an MBA from IIM Calcutta. About me, so I'll be your host for today, and my name is Abhishek Sinha, and I'm the head of relationship at EZScholar. Now, before a further ado, I hand it over to Amit to take you further through his presentation.
Thank you, Abhishek, and thank you for being here today to all the participants. So before we get into the presentation, let's spend a few minutes understanding what is this test SAT about. Well, SAT is a standardized test, and it is used to measure mathematical and reasoning skills of students. The other thing is, if I'm a top university in the US or UK or Canada, I have applicants coming for me from all over the world. And it is very difficult for me to figure out these students come from a very wide range of academic backgrounds. It's very difficult to figure out how one student matches up against another one. So having these students appear for a common test with similar questions and a similar difficulty level helps assess all of them on a single measure. And which is why most of the top American and Canadian universities and an increasing number of Indian private colleges are now considering SAT for admissions as well as scholarships. Next, please. Yeah. So SAT is a test which is scored out of a total of 1600 marks, 800 for English, 800 for math. And as you can see, a lot of our students score 1500 plus scores. So overall, SAT is it is a very competitive test. About 2% of all students score about, I think a little less than 2% students score over 1500. Last year in 2024, 25% of EZScholar's students got a 1500 plus score. About 7 or 8% students end up scoring 1400 plus on SAT. Last year, 65% of our students achieved a 1400 plus score on SAT. These are some of the students who recently got good scores who were for EZScholar, and you can look up more of their details and stories on our website as well. Next, please. So how is the test structured? I have already told you that it has two parts, math and English. Both of them carry 800 marks each. Now, both of them, the English part and the math part, are in two modules. The English module, each English module has 27 multiple choice questions, which we have to finish in 32 minutes. So you're looking at about 75 seconds for each individual question. So these questions are not very long, but when you take them together, it becomes a problem. Likewise, in math, 22 questions in each module, two modules, and these 22 questions have to be answered in 35 minutes, which gives you approximately 90 seconds to answer each question. Now, these questions are not super difficult, but what happens is if you spend too much time on a single question, let's say you spend 3 minutes on one question, and you will find that as you near the end of that section, you're running out of time. You don't have the capacity or the time to attend all the questions properly. The other part about SAT is that it is an adaptive test. So let's say that you and I both appear for SAT. And let's say that we do the first section. Let's say I do the first section, I make a lot of mistakes. You appear for the first section and you get everything right. So the section 2 that you get is going to be much more difficult compared to the section 2 that I get. If you make more mistakes, you will get an easier section 2. If you do it really well, you will get difficult questions. But obviously, if you do poorly in section 1, your score is going to be lower. The idea is having the test in having an adaptive test allows the test setters to create a section to curate it to really separate out the merely good from the exceptional. And this is something which works really well in this test. And we will try and see how we can ace that as well. And with this, I would now like to hand it over to my colleague Ashay.
Thank you, Amit. And good morning to everyone who's joined today. So let's start with looking at what SAT English curriculum looks like and what is tested on these two modules. And then we'll look at some sample questions on SAT English. So the SAT English curriculum is broadly divided in 4 domains. So we'll look at those domains first. So craft and structure is the first domain, which has 13 to 15 questions with a rough weightage of 28%. Within craft and structure, you'll have different question types. The first one is words in context. Then we have text structure and purpose, and then cross-text connections. So words in context, we'll look at a sample question in a bit. These are questions where your understanding of vocabulary is evaluated, but not just words that you know or words that you don't know. Your understanding of the context is equally important. So if you're able to really comprehend the text around that word question, that is also equally important. Then we have text structure and purpose, where they'll ask you the function of a particular sentence within a text, or the overall flow of the text, or the main idea behind the text. And then with cross-text connections, you will have 2 texts in the same question. And then they'll ask you what is the relation between the 2 texts, or how would people in text 2 respond to something presented in text 1, maybe a theory or a concept. So this is the craft and structure domain. The next domain is information and ideas, which has 12 to 14 questions with a rough weightage of around 26%. And again, there are a number of question types within this. So central ideas and details is the first one, where the questions will ask you what are the main ideas behind the text, or what's the idea that the text is really defined on. And then details questions are questions where you're looking at a very particular aspect of a text, and usually it's a text which is based on literature. And then you're looking for what prompted a particular behavior from a character, or what is the character's response to a particular situation. So questions of this kind. Then we have command of evidence, where again you get 2 different kinds of questions. So command of evidence textual is where you'll see both scientific as well as literary texts, and they'll ask you to either support or weaken the claim or the hypothesis that is mentioned in the text. With command of evidence graphics or quantitative questions, you'll also have a graph followed by a scientific text, and then a question that asks you the relation between the 2. So, maybe you'll have to use some information from this graph again to support or weaken the claim or the hypothesis that's made or presented in the text. And finally, you have questions on inferences where you get about a 3 to 4 sentence text, but the last half sentence is blanked out. So you're supposed to get to the correct ending by understanding the rest of the text and eliminating the other incorrect 3 choices. So that is inferences. Then standard English conventions, which has about 11 to 15 questions and a rough weightage of 26%. This has 2 question types in it, boundaries and form, structure, and sense. So the questions on boundaries evaluate your understanding of different punctuation rules, be it full stops, commas, colons, semicolons, dashes, and so on. And then with form, structure, and sense, they'll assess your understanding of different grammatical concepts like subject verb agreement, verb tenses, pronoun reference and agreement, modifier placement and parallel structure, and so on. So these are grammar and punctuation questions which have a rough weightage of 26%, which is huge. It's more than 1/4 of your overall English score. And then finally, we have expression of ideas, where again you have 2 questions. The first one is transitions that check your understanding of identifying relationships between 2 sentences. And if you're able to place the correct word at the beginning of the second sentence, usually. And then you have rhetorical synthesis, where you'll see that a student has taken some notes on a particular topic, and then the student wants to accomplish a certain goal with the use of these notes. So again, your understanding of that goal is very important. But also, if you're able to go back to the student notes and focus on key aspects instead of going through all of it, will also play a very important role here. Now, this is the English curriculum. So if you look at it, there are 11 different question types across these, 4 different domains. 11 because in command of evidence, you have 2 different questions. Otherwise, there are 10. 10 types, but 11 concepts. So if you think of the English curriculum, and my colleague Amit had already covered that there are 2 different modules, 27 questions each. So there are 54 questions, and you're required to read 54 different texts throughout this English module, which is again a very important thing to understand and remember while you're preparing for the SAT. Because if you want a very good score, a 700 plus, you have to be a very good reader. You have to develop good reading skills. We will definitely introduce you to a number of strategies, some of them today, and if you decide to enroll with us, a number of them in the classes as well. So those strategies are going to help you immensely, but you'll also have to put in some effort in your reading skills as well. And those of you who are at, let's say, 10th grade or 11th grade, that's something you definitely have a lot of time to do. Right. So let's move on and look at some sample questions now. So this is the first question, sample question on English. And this is a words in context or vocabulary question. So please take a look at the question carefully, spend a couple of minutes, go through it, and let's see if you're able to solve it. I'd like to see your responses in the chat. So yeah, I'll give you about a minute and a half. Let's see what you all think. Okay. Some answers are there already. Some of you are saying C. A couple of you are also saying D. Yeah, think about it. Like I said, it's not just the word that they're testing you on, it's also your understanding of the context surrounding the blank. Okay, a bit of I would say a bit of a to and fro uh, among options C and D. So the correct answer here is actually option D, negligible. And okay, fine. So a lot of other option D's have also come out just then. Okay. So D is the right answer. See, if you look at the text carefully, they're talking about this undergraduate researcher who contributed to this groundbreaking study. And what did the study do? It challenged the accepted view that whatever, but we'll look at the view later, but they're challenging the accepted view. Now focus on the next sentence, and they're saying how this team's review of the data from the study revealed that as many as half of the hunters were females. So they found that half of the hunters were females, and then they're challenging the accepted view, which means the accepted view definitely has to say that there were not enough females in these hunting populations. And that's why participation or female participation in hunting was negligible, fits the best. That was the accepted view, and they challenged it with the data that they found in their study. Right? So understanding the text is equally important. It's not just a test of your vocabulary, but also a test of how you really comprehend the text. Okay, let's move on to the next question then. And this is a question on transitions. So again, I'll give you a bit of a time. Let's see what you all think. Okay, so I have B as one of the answers accordingly. Okay, some of you are saying nevertheless C. All right, and B again. Okay, good. Number of you have got this correct as well. B is the right answer here accordingly. Now, again, see with transitions, this is important. Like I said, they test your understanding of establishing relationships between these sentences. So you need to understand what's the purpose of the first sentence and how is that second sentence related to the first one. So if you look at the first sentence here, it's talking about reforestation and how it's good, but it can also result in forests that have limited biodiversity. So there is this problem that can happen with reforestation, that the biodiversity will be limited. And then the next sentence is saying that, okay, if you decide to plant a wide variety of native flora in these woodlands, this problem will not happen. It can be resolved. So if you look at it, you want a word like a therefore in this bank. It's a clear cause and effect. Because reforestation results in forests with limited biodiversity, you should plant wide variety of native flora so that the problem doesn't arise, right? So this is important. The other strategy which is equally important, and this is something that we do in our sessions, we provide all our students with a chart on different transition families. Like I said, this was a cause and effect. So what are the transitions that fall under cause and effect? There are different families like compare and contrast, or show similarity, or add on, and emphasize, give examples, and so on. So if you look at this question, option A and option C, however and nevertheless, they were both from the same family of contradiction. So this is an important strategy as well. If you have two transitions from the same family of transitions, you can always eliminate both of them. And once you eliminate A and C in this question, with B and D, it was clearly accordingly that was a better answer, because furthermore is again when you're adding on to something. So if there was another problem that the second sentence was talking about, then furthermore would fit in. Right. So good job to those who got this right. Let's look at the next question. And this is a boundaries question, a test of punctuation. Okay. Some of you are saying C. And B as well. All right. So C and B, those are the two choices. One with a comma, one without a comma. So it seems that most of you are sure that and is required. There's just a bit of a confusion whether the comma is required. So I agree, and is required here, but it is also the comma that is required. So C will be the correct answer. This is the fanboys, the placement of fanboys or use of fanboys. And again, a very common concept that you'll find tested on the SAT questions with College Board. So you use this kind of a comma here with and when you have two complete sentences, right? Fanboys is something that most of you would have learned, I think, around grade 6 or 7, compound sentences and how to create compound sentences with conjunctions. So this is something that they will definitely test you on. So if you look at this question, you have a complete sentence till before the blank, till the word tribe, the Mohegan tribe, and you again have a complete sentence starting with today, right? So if there are two complete sentences, and if you're joining them using one of the fanboys conjunctions, and is one of the fanboys, so you will also need the comma just before that conjunction. Right? So these are some of the questions that, the kind of questions that you'll get on SAT English. There are some reading comprehension questions as well, but we don't have the space or time to cover some of those today. I just wanted to give all of you a brief look into what are the kind of questions and what are the kind of things that you need to remember in terms of answering them correctly. Now, the next thing is something that I've touched upon briefly at the beginning. So I'll just repeat that again. Those of you who are in grade 10 or 11, it's a very good opportunity for you to develop a strong reading habit, right? And ideally, you should go beyond fiction, go into a little bit of a non-fiction and start reading from the topics that interest you, right? For example, if some of you are interested in physics, this first book here, Storm in a Teacup, it's a very good book to read from, right? If you are interested in economics, for example, look at Freakonomics. That's again a very good book. But irrespective of your subject choices, something that you should definitely do is start reading from good newspapers and magazines. The Mint, for example, is a very good newspaper, and if you start reading from it daily, it will be very helpful. Similarly, The American Scientist is a magazine, and you can access it online for free. A number of articles are available for free. If you start reading from it, it's just the kind of texts that you get on the SAT. Your familiarity with that kind of a language and grammar use will go up significantly, and it will help you a lot in reading the right things. So speed reading as well will improve. So for now, this is all from me. I'll hand it back to my colleague Amit now, who will take you through the math modules.
Thank you, Ashay. So I already gave you an overview of the SAT math modules, 22 questions to be solved in 35 minutes. Now, these 22 questions come from 4 broad areas: algebra, which includes linear equations, linear functions, and systems of equations. It is also a fancy way of saying straight lines and their equations. Advanced math includes topics such as non-linear functions, parabolas, and inequalities. Problem solving and data analysis. These are topics that you have probably studied in standard 6, 7, and 8. For example, topics such as percentages, rate problems, etc. And finally, there is geometry and trigonometry. Now, most of this math, maybe I would say 95% of it, would be topics that you have already studied and completed by standard 10. So if you have completed standard 10, you are in the right you are at the right stage or the right level of knowledge to appear for SAT. 1. 2, as I indicated before, the questions are not particularly difficult. It is the way in which these questions are often framed that they become difficult. So for example, an SAT problem will not be a straight solve this equation or find X. Sometimes the problem will be given to you in form of maybe a few statements from which you then have to formulate the equations and then solve them. Sometimes the question will look very difficult it will be worded in very complicated language, but the underlying math is going to be extremely simple. So these are some things you need to keep in mind when you're appearing for a test like SAT or preparing for it. Next, please. So let's look at a few questions. Let's take about a minute and solve this question. So any guesses? Okay, so let's look at this problem now. Let's say that the original price, the number we are looking for is X. Sorry, yeah. So X is equal to 40. That was the original cost. All items are discounted by 20%. That means 0.8. So we multiplied by 0.8, and then there is an additional discount of 15%, which means 0.85. So I think if I multiply these two, I should ideally get option B, which is 27.2. Now the trap in this question is that there are two successive percentages, a 20% discount followed by a 15% discount. And the trap many students fall into is that they add 20 and 15 to get a discount of 35%. And then obviously they get the wrong answer. So this is one of the common types of questions that you can get in SAT. And this is, of course, the trap that you need to be careful about. Can we have the next question? Okay, another one. Let's take a minute and try and solve it. Okay, now this question actually is quite straightforward, although it looks a little complicated. A circle is area of 120 square centimeters and arc ABC makes an angle of 72 degrees at the center. Visualize a circle as a pizza and the arc or the segment as a slice. A circle overall has 360 degrees. The arc, which has 72 degrees, will account for 1/5 of the circle. Sorry, this is 72. So 72 over 360, I think should be 1/5. So 120 into 1/5. And I think the answer should be 24 square centimeters. So again, this question doesn't, typically when we see a circle related problem, the first instinct is apply pi r square, find the radius, try to do something. All that is not needed. You have the area of the circle, you have to find the area of a segment, and it will be directly proportional to the angle that the segment subtends at the center. And that is it. So being familiar with common common concepts in geometry, such as area of figures, angles, and so on, is extremely helpful if you're trying to solve problems quickly. SAT provides a reference sheet with common formulae, areas of two-dimensional figures, volume of 3D figures, common trigonometrical ratios. But in my experience, it is far better if you have these concepts, if you have these formulae, etc., memorized so that you don't have to look them up. Let's take the next one. Okay, a slightly different problem in algebra. Again, let's take a minute and try and solve it. I can see one answer. Okay, let me take this one now. Now, the key here is that we have been given two equations there, and there are multiple variables. So obviously we can't solve it algebraically. But there is also additional information that we have been given, that the system of equations has infinite solutions. Now, any equation which has a single power of x and y, when plotted on the xy plane, comes out as a straight line. If a system of equation has infinite solutions, well, it means that these are two parallel lines, because the simplest definition of parallel lines is straight lines that never intersect. So if these lines are parallel, their slopes are going to be identical. If I can express this in the form y equal to mx plus c, both the sides, I will be able to find the okay, sorry, I made a mistake. This is infinite solutions. Sorry, infinite solutions means it is the same straight line, which means that I can see a 6 over here and a 18 over here. So I multiply this by 3. I get 6x minus 3ry equals 18. And I get sx minus 9y equals 18. These two equations are identical, which means 6 is equal to s and r is equal to 3. R plus s is equal to 9. So the three common concepts which are tested are: you are given two equations with an identified variable, and you can be told that there are no solutions, which means lines are parallel, infinite solutions, which means same straight line, and one solution, which means the lines intersect at one point. We'll take one last problem and then we'll move on to yeah. Now this question is from the concept of parabolas. I will not solve it here. I mean, will not solve it here, but I would like to point out a few things. Parabolas and quadratic equations are the single most difficult topic that you will find in SAT. If you're trying to score, let's say 750 plus in SAT, you have to do well in parabolas. And in my experience, you will typically get 3 to 4 questions out of the 44 questions, which will deal with parabolas. There could be more as well. Now, apart from the conceptual understanding of the topic, you also need to become very well versed in the use of a scientific calculator. Now in India, we don't have many of us don't use calculators till at least the 10th standard, which actually is an advantage because SAT provides an inbuilt calculator called Desmos, which is a part of their Blue Book app. And if you don't have any, it is extremely intuitive to use. And this is something we encourage all students. If you're planning to appear for SAT, learn the use of Desmos. So for a simple question like this, of course, we have been asked to find the maximum height of the ball. So effectively, we are being told to find the y coordinate of the vertex of the parabola. X coordinate of the vertex of a parabola is minus b over 2a. We can calculate that, and then we plug in that x value and we can find the y coordinate. That, of course, is the standard way that you will do it if you don't have a scientific calculator. However, if you plot this equation on Desmos, you can straight away figure out which is the vertex of the parabola and therefore what the answer is. So being able to use Desmos well is a very powerful enabler in case of SAT. So if you are preparing for the test, there are 3 or 4 things I would suggest to you. One, memorize common formulae such as area of a circle, area of a parallelogram, volume of a pyramid, volume of a sphere, and so on. Surface area of a cylinder. These are things that you will require. 1. 2. Also memorize common trigonometrical ratios and identities. Sine, cosine, and tan for 30, 45, and 60 degrees. While these are provided in the reference sheet, if you have to look them up, that adds an additional stage to your problem solving. It takes up more time, but also the chances of mistake are higher. If you have these memorized, the only way to memorize something is to use it a lot of times. Chances that you will make a mistake are reduced. Finally, one thing which I suggest to many students is to memorize multiplication tables of numbers up to 20. And the benefit of that is, if you have to do a small calculation, let's say a 15 multiplied 12 in the course of solving a question, you don't have to use the calculator every time. Because every time you go to the calculator, it breaks the chain of thoughts. It also introduces a number of extra steps. You punch in a wrong key and you may end up making a mistake. So while it is good to use calculators for certain questions which are clearly very difficult, for smaller and simpler calculations, we suggest that you do mental math. Moreover, if you're good at doing mental calculations, if an answer looks off to you, if you're good at mental math and let's say you have made a mistake in solving a question, the answer will probably look off to you and you will retrace and check your steps. Chances of a mistake therefore get further reduced. Next, please. So we've already covered the basics of English and math. We know what the test is like. So how do we get a high score on it? Well, the first step in any journey is trying to figure out where you stand and then start heading towards where you want to be. And in figuring out where you stand, the first step is to appear for a diagnostic test. EZScholar is happy to offer a diagnostic test to all students. You just have to go to our website, register, and you can appear for a free diagnostic test. A diagnostic test will tell you how you stand vis-a-vis the larger population of students, which are the concepts that you are strong in, which are the concepts that you don't understand clearly and will have to work on. And based on this assessment, plan out your preparation, learn the concepts, study those, practice these concepts so that they become ingrained in your mind. And once you're reasonably comfortable with these concepts, appear for multiple mock tests. So this is one thing that we suggest to all students. If you're appearing for SAT, let's say 4 or 5 months from now, it may be a good idea to appear for 3 or 4 different mock tests. A mock test gives you a good idea of what the test is going to be like in terms of the time pressure, in terms of the structure, and so on. By putting all these questions to you at once, you also get challenged across multiple topics. So if in a stress condition, you end up making a few mistakes, you get to know about that. Review this performance with experts. So for all students who work with EZScholar, we provide a number of mock tests as a part of the preparation. And we review these mock tests together with the students to figure out which are the concepts where they need additional practice. And finally, of course, using the strategies that some of which we have outlined to you, improve your score, appear for the test, and hopefully go to your dream university. Next, please. So what is the program that EZScholar offers that we have been talking about all this while? So we run small batch classes. These are with the tutors. I teach math. My colleague Aisha teaches English. So these are 48 hours of live classes, 24 for English, 24 for math. We have divided SAT into 11 topics for English and 11 topics for math. For each of these 11 topics, so 22 in all, we have a total of 3 sectional tests on our portal. We will take a few moments to look at that portal next. Each of these exercises is 15 questions. So we are actually talking about something like we are talking about something like 1,000 questions in all, which will help you prepare for your SAT. What we also find is that when I solve a new problem for the first time in parabolas, it will take me a few minutes. If I've done 10 or 15 of these problems, my problem solving time reduces substantially. So that is one of the reasons why we have created so many exercises and practice tests. We have already gone through the kind of results that EZScholar has offered in the past. We also conduct 2 parent-teacher meetings between the students and between the parents and the tutors to gauge the progress of the students. Our program provides access to ebooks that we have developed with the SAT curriculum, as well as our digital platform, which has these 66 exercises that we spoke about. And in addition to these, we have created additional bonus material for students who want to go the extra mile and get more practice with harder questions. So let's take a look at the portal now. Next, please. Can we go to the portal, please? Yeah. So I told you, I spoke earlier about how we have these exercises on our online portal. So for example, the equivalent expressions is a topic in math. A digital mock test is the full length mock test that is conducted. Nonlinear equations is another topic in math. So what we can see over here is that the test had 15 questions. The student got 13 right, which gives a percentage of 87. But this is not all. This just tells you that these are the questions you got wrong, but there is a further level of analysis that can be done with these questions. So for example, we know that the student scored 87%, but the student is in the 55th percentile, which means the student is in about the top 55% of all test takers. This is based on, of course, the score as well as the time the student took to complete the test. So there may have been other students who also got 13 right, but they solved the test in shorter time, which means that they got a better percentile. That is one level of analysis. So when you are preparing, especially for a competitive test, it is good to know where you stand. But we have also dwelt upon the time aspect of SAT in our presentation. So let's look at that. So our test also gives an analysis of the time that you took to solve each question. So for example, if the student took, supposing the student took 65 seconds to solve this question, but the average time taken by everyone else was 98 seconds, that means you ended up saving some time. Now, we have often discovered in this kind of an analysis that a student got, let's say, question number 7 right, but the student ended up spending 4 minutes on that question. And as a result of that, by the time the student reaches question 9, she has run out of time. And therefore, questions 10 to 15 remain unattempted. So this kind of analysis, which tells you where you stand in terms of time taken to solve each question, is really very important. Can we get back? Yeah. So we spoke about our online portal, which has these ebooks and the digital platform. In addition to that, we have these bonus books that we provide, which have additional theory and practice tests that you can use for your preparation. And I think I have given you an overview of what the test is like. I and my colleague Ashay, we have given you an overview of what the test is like, what kind of preparation do we offer at EZScholar, and what kind of material you have access to. With that, I would like to hand it back to my colleague Abhishek. Okay, sorry, this is one last slide. I'm so sorry. So I spoke about the program that we are conducting. These are the expectations we set from students at the beginning. One, you have to attend all classes regularly. We have one class every week for English, one class every week for math, 90 minutes each. And we expect you to be there. If you miss a class for a reason, we expect you to watch the recording of that session. All the sessions that we conduct are recorded and they are uploaded on our uploaded and shared with the students. The homework that is assigned, you have to complete. After we make you complete one exercise in the class and we assign some homework to you. We expect you to complete these as well. Some of these exercises will be from our portal, but we can also assign additional material to you. Finally, each class for English and math is 90 minutes a week. So apart from a 90-minute class in a week, we also expect you to put in similar time in reading up the theory and completing the practice tests that we have assigned to you. So in all, we are talking about 3 hours of time every week for English and 3 hours of time every week for math for a 4-month period. And at the end of which you should be ready to appear for the SAT test. Abhishek, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Amit and Ashay, for covering your respective subjects. Now, before we move on to the question and answers, very quick overview of the upcoming batch that Amit mentioned. So we are starting with a new SAT batch from 21st of May, which is a Wednesday. So as you see on the screen, the classes would be conducted 2 days in a week, which is every Wednesday and every Friday. And the timings would be 6 to 7:30 p.m. So Wednesday will be a math class, Friday will be an English class. And some of you, or in fact, if most of you or all of you would like to attend some of the classes before you actually commit to the May 21st batch, I open this to all of you that you can join our ongoing batch. So we already have a batch ongoing. So you can sit in few of the classes. Let's say this coming Wednesday, we have a class at 6 p.m. English class. Then Friday, we have a class at again 6 p.m. So you can sit in for those classes, and you can then make your decision whether you want to go ahead with us for the 21st May batch or not. How to do that? Let's say someone who is interested in joining the class this week. I have put down my number in the chat, also the email ID. You just need to reach out to me over call or WhatsApp or even an email, and I will send you the Zoom link of this week class. So do attend few classes and then make up your mind.